Welcome, everyone, to Buddhist Center. Let's begin right away by setting the most magnificent motivation in the universe, the best that we can do, this thing that we've been talking about week after week called bodhicitta. And it was so great. I was looking at the YouTube page and seeing that it's been a year now, just about, that we've spent just on the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So because of that, we all have such a great opportunity to evaluate our progress week after week, to see if these teachings are really having an impact on our minds. So when we say, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, this is what bodhicitta is. This is defined as the wish to achieve the highest enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And when we make statements like this week after week, if we've been applying these nectar-like instructions that are passed down from Buddha through the Nalanda tradition and through all the authentic Tibetan masters into our laps, then we should have a different experience. We should start to feel we're discriminating sentient beings in a different way. We're looking at them in a different way, and we're having a feeling that's occurring because of that way of looking that's different, that's making us want to help them, that's making our minds move towards them, and making our minds move towards more and more and more sentient beings, even the most difficult ones. So we have this weekly gauge, and we have the complete instructions and the authentic instructions to go by, to use as a mirror, to use as instructions for our daily meditation, that will then allow us to have these different experiences as we do it more and more and more, because we've put in the work. This cognitive transformation can't just take place. It's something that builds up through using reasoning to prove to ourselves that it makes no sense to do anything but this. And normally we think it really doesn't make sense to do anything but what's fun. But what we come to find out is that this is what allows us to have the most fun that there is to have the most happiness that there is to be moved away from all of the sufferings that we don't want, that we try to create fences around and cover ourselves with cotton so we don't have to experience. But we don't have to try to put out all the fires around us and try to control all of the external factors around us to be happy. We just have to figure out how to make our minds more like a being's mind who's happy all the time. And who is that? A Buddha. And what does the Buddha think about doing all the time? Cherishing others, helping others, finding out a way to get sentient beings to not have to experience among the 3 types of suffering. How to get sentient beings to be able to learn what this nectar is that we're talking about in order to achieve the state that he or she has achieved. So we're so fortunate to have these complete, authentic instructions. We've been going through the 7-point cause and effect passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Lord Maitreya and Arya Sangha and Charya Basu Bandhu, down through the extensive deeds lineage to Lama Salimpa and Lord Atisha and Master Drontompa, all the way down through this lineage, and then coming to us. We were just to this being who's sitting in front of you, who has so many flaws and so many wrong ideas and like to engage in so many wrong things. And because I met with a qualified teacher who presented this to me, it convinced me that living a life like this and applying things like this to my mind makes more sense than all of the other things that I was doing to try to have happiness and be free from suffering. Because my goal, freedom from suffering, and my achievement of ultimate happiness, I was finding I was failing miserably at. And when I met with these authentic teachings, I came to find out why I was failing miserably at being happy and being free from suffering. I was failing miserably because I wasn't creating the causes for happiness and wasn't creating the causes for suffering. I wasn't creating the causes to have peace of mind. I thought I was doing things to make my mind more at peace, but it was making my mind more distorted, and a distorted mind is never at peace. So we have this chance right here, right now, to change our minds from this mind that's just worried all of the time, to a mind that's a little less worried and a little less worried and a little less worried and a little less worried. But the thing is, and what we're learning so clearly, the way we think we go about making our minds a little bit less worried and the way we actually make our minds a little bit less worried aren't the same. And that's why we're here tonight. The self-cherishing attitude that we normally drive with has never brought us the results that we thought that it would. The other cherishing attitude that we never really thought about is the thing waiting out there for us to figure out how to make our minds work like that, waiting right there for us to transform our minds from self-cherishing to other cherishing, waiting right there for us to be able to be happier, happier, and happier, and happier, to the point where there's no more happiness to be had, and that's called Buddhahood, the peak of happiness, the supreme happiness, a bliss that never ends, 24/7, feeling as happy as you can, completely free from suffering, and being the most reliable guide in the universe at the same time, and being able to help everyone who hasn't figured out what you've figured out, how to achieve freedom from suffering and the ultimate state of happiness that they all want, but are going about it in the wrong way, just as I now am I was going about it in the wrong way. Now I'm going about it in a more right way, and a more right way, and a more right way. I'm seeing personally that, and you will see personally that the more you practice, your mind will change, and there will be a difference, meaning that the negativity will decrease and the positivity will increase, even if it's in small increments. And that results in your mind working in a way that tallies more with reality, because it means that you're realizing interdependence in some way and having compassion for others and not harming others. And that makes your mind work better and better, and makes you move closer and closer to those desired goals that we all have, but we've never gone about getting those goals in a way that would produce them. Here we are tonight, looking at the stages of the path to enlightenment that are unerring instructions. There aren't any mistakes in there. They show everyone in the universe how to start and what happens when you end. How to start is you start by studying the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity, and then you study the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity, get to know those so well and realize them within your mind. And in dependence upon the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, you can realize the teachings for beings of great capacity. And then slowly through this process of the wisdom arisen from hearing, learning, and then analyzing these things we're talking about. Does this make sense? Doesn't it make sense? Is this logical? Do I want my mind to work like this? Is anger have downfalls? Is patience better? Is relating to sentient beings with love a better way to relate to them than anger or neutrality? We have to swirl these things around and around and around and really get to know them. We'll find out in the sixth step that this is not just like a one-time, 10-time, 20-time thing. This is an all the time, year after year after year, that this thing slowly turns, like turning a huge barge around, as we say. Slowly turns. It's not something that's going to turn quick. And unfortunately, we're very impatient. So we have to convince our minds that it's worthwhile waiting for this slow turn to take place. But while that slow turn is taking place, there will be increments of that turn. Like within that turn, in those increments, you'll feel a little better, a little less suffering, a little better, a little less suffering, because all of the happiness and all of the suffering that you experience isn't experienced outside. It's experienced within your mind. And the more your mind is working in a way that's accurate, the more your mind is working in a way that flows towards others, the more you're working towards this place where your mind isn't worried. So with that, let's imagine those beings in the front of us who figured out this formula, those enlightened beings in the front of us. And let's say in our minds, these are the kind of beings that I want to be like. I know the kinds of beings that I used to hang around with that aren't happy and that engage in a lot of worldly things. And I look at how they are, and I look at how they're worried all the time, and I look at how they have little blips of seeming happiness, but it doesn't seem like it's that great. And then I look at the lamas, and I look at people like Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I read about these past Tibetan saints, beings I've actually been in front of in real life, and beings and historical beings we read about. And there's such a big difference, such a big difference. So I can either turn my mind towards those beings who don't have a solution. I've witnessed it. You've probably witnessed it. Even beings who are living a pretty good life, they don't seem to have the solution. Even beings who are billionaires and are maybe the most ethical people you've met, if they don't have path, they don't seem to have a solution. But then we can turn our minds towards someone with nothing living in a cave and see they're totally content and they have a solution. The difference is the information that they're coming in contact with and believing is different than the information that these other folks are coming in contact with and believing. So I just need to figure out which team I want to be on. Do I want to be on a team that's in contact with information that's not working? Or do I want to align with a team, if you will, of folks who has information that has proven to work because they have a resultant state that I'm looking for? I'm telling my mind over and over when I sit down on my cushion, first thing, the beings that I would like to align with are those beings who are put others' needs before their own, those beings who've removed the afflictive obstructions, the obstructions to omniscience, who clearly, because of that, are exactly what I've been seeking, exactly what I've been wanting to hear and know about my whole life. How do I get this thing that I can never seem to get? They have it. So imagine those beings in the space in front of you, like His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, the wish-fulfilling jewel in our world, our root lamas like Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, Geshe Lobsang Gonpo Rinpoche, Demo Loche Rinpoche, Khensur Lobsang Gyatso Rinpoche, again, Jeffrey Hopkins. Beings like this, these are beings not a fairy tale. These are beings that I've had so much contact with and so much teaching from. And maybe some of the names I mentioned have passed from this world, but they haven't really, because their teaching sits in my head. And when I'm about to engage in something I shouldn't, I know why I shouldn't because of the teachings that they gave me. So they're right in my heart with me. And I want to make sure that I always remember that's what's important. So I always want to remember my kind teachers. And whenever I do a meditation, I want to remember them right in the space in front of me, so that in my future life, I remember them right in the space in front of me, and they come to connect with me, and they come to bail me out much earlier because of the karma that I've created to be bailed out much earlier in life. And maybe a baby just born in exactly the right place to meet with Acharya Chandrakirti's and Arya Nagarjuna's teachings. Those holy beings, there's beings in our world right now. Geshe Dorji Damdula, Umse Geshe Agha, Geshe Eshe Tapke Rinpoche, again, Padan Drapa Rinpoche. These are all giants, compassionate, so knowledgeable. I just urge each and every one of you to don't just leave it here. Find some of those masters, those older masters, and just see what a being like that is if you haven't already. And you will become convinced that that being is so different than the old crowd. You will be so convinced. Imagining the extensive deeds lineage beings, the extensive deeds lineage I mentioned at the beginning of the teaching is where we find this precious instruction on the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment that we've been going over for a year and aren't done with yet. Looking at all of these commentaries, we're so blessed to have the commentaries from all of the Dalai Lamas and the Panchen Lamas, all of the Nalanda Pandits, and all of the Buddhist sutras. we can look right at and see where all of this information comes from. We have to study. There's just no choice. We have to go through this process. Like Geshe Dorji Damdul said today, if you have a tumor, you have no choice but to have to do an operation. You have to go through the pain. You have to go through what it's going to take to remove it. We have to go through what it's going to take to remove these afflictive obstructions and obstructions to omniscience, because the afflictive obstructions are keeping us stuck in suffering, and the obstructions to omniscience are making it so we can't experience the most highest amount of happiness that's available to a mind. So these beings are so kind. We have these commentaries. We can read them and just get more tips, more insights into how a mind like mine could change, how a mind like mine could be more like those beings in the space in front of me, who I've witnessed in front of me in real life, not imagining them. I'm imagining them now, but all of these holy beings are coming here anyway. But beings that I'm imagining, I've been in the same room with, in live, in person, Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, hugging His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, in person. I don't mean in my mind. I've done this. I've done these things. So I've seen this difference that Acharya Shantideva talks about, like, the all unhappiness in the world comes from cherishing yourself. All happiness comes in the world comes from cherishing others. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas cherish others. You cherish yourself. Ordinary beings cherish themselves. Look at the difference. And I looked at the difference, and I'm here to tell you it's different. Boy, is it different. Boy, is it different. Imagining all of those holy beings in the space in front of you, the lineage of blessings, Lord Atisha and Master Dron Tompa, all the old Kadampa masters, Nyingma Sakya Kaju Galupa masters, imagining them all right there. Highest Yoga Tantra action, performance and action Tantra, protectors, 35 Buddhas, every being. The more you can imagine, the better. Imagine there's Buddhas on every atom in front of you. Imagine that every atom is a Buddha field. Just surrounded by love, surrounded by wisdom. Now we said, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Everyone you've imagined became enlightened for others. Let me repeat this. Everyone that we've imagined became enlightened for others. We normally think, oh, I'm going to become a Buddha. But the way you actually become a Buddha is you come to realize that you're going to do it for everyone else's sake. And that's how you fulfill all of your needs and all sentient beings' needs. So the beings in front of us figured this out. So what we need to do is make our minds more like a mind that figured it out. Make our minds more pliant, make our minds ready to move quicker, make our minds less rigid, make our minds less concrete like they usually feel. Everything around us feels so concrete, and everything that we think feels so concrete. All these ideas that we have feel so concrete. But the way that we start to undo this chain that's binding us, these links that are just binding us, just wrapped around us, around and around and around and around and around and around and around us, that are keeping us so oppressed, keeping us in suffering, the self-cherishing attitude, the self-grasping ignorance, keeping us oppressed and suffering. And then even when we're unbound, the subtle self-cherishing attitude keeps us from being happy at its highest state. So we need to familiarize our minds with a mind that would be a mind that produces the results that we're really, really looking for. And a mind that cherishes others isn't our normal mind. A mind that's willing to say, hey, someone I don't like, come on in the room and listen to this teaching with me. Come on in the room. Let me show you something you may not know about. I think you'll be happier. I want you to be happy. I want you to be free from suffering. I mean, can we do this? Can we really do this? Could we imagine doing this? If we can't imagine doing this, how are we ever going to be able to actually do it? If we couldn't even like make our minds like loosen up enough to imagine that we would say, hey, someone I really find disgusting, I want you to be happy. I want you to be free from suffering. Here, come in here. Come into my room. Come into my home. Please, please, I want to help you. Have a cup of tea. Come into my room and listen to what I learned about. And then eventually you'll say, hey, come into my room. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is the truth of suchness. You don't have to worry anymore. So imagine now that you start to connect with every single sentient being in the universe. You've connected with the non-sentient being mind possessors. Those are only Buddhas. You have Buddhas and sentient beings. Now invite all of those sentient beings, those beings who aren't Buddhas yet. All sentient beings have Buddha nature. All sentient beings have the seed of the Tathagata. I am a sentient being. If you're who you appear to be and aren't Buddhas, you are sentient beings. That means that you and I, everyone, has this potential to become perfect. And not like we have to turn our mind in and get a new one. No, we just have to slowly take our mind from a place that's not completely valid about all phenomena simultaneously and transform it into a mind that is. And it takes piece by piece, learning a little bit, learning a little more. You learn A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You get rid of the ignorance related to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you just have to start coming into contact with the right information, pay attention to it. And that really sophisticated information, like what we're talking about, slowly causes there to be a difference in the way that we're checking everything out and believing in it around us. So it's this exercise that we're doing that will help with that. Imagine you bring friends. Imagine that you bring strangers here, and then those difficult people. And really, really look those difficult people in your meditation in the eyes and say, I care about you. Can you say, I love you? No one has ever become a Buddha that couldn't say that to everyone in the universe. Can you say, I want you to be free from suffering? Any being in history, imagine inviting them in your room. The most disgusting ones you can think about it. Horrible, horrible folks. And each and every one of them has the same potential as you. Has the same potential that Buddha Shakyamuni had when he was Prince Siddhartha. No different potential. The mind isn't any less pure. It's just the actual nature of the mind is in the nature of clear light and unsullied. The stains are adventitious. We all have stains since beginningless time. Right now, we're pretty good folks, maybe, but that doesn't mean we won't be thrust into a rebirth and have the completing karmas and the habitual tendencies from a previous life when we acted real bad. Doesn't mean we won't be monsters in our next life if we don't stop this kind of train on the wrong tracks and put it onto the right track. You want to stop millions of beings from being harmed? Well, you better figure out how to be thrust into a life where you're not going to be a harmer, where you won't be those monsters that you can't even invite into your room. And when we remember that in previous lives, we were exactly like that, we just don't remember. So we think that we should judge everyone around us, but they're just like us, under the sway of ignorance, and that ignorance is creating attachment and aversion and pride and jealousy and miserliness and just an overall harmful idea about others who are in any way disrupting the self-cherishing attitude. We have to change so much. It's not just a little change. It's not just oh, did you hear about so-and-so? They're not. No, it's a huge change we have to take on. And it's not going to work all at once. But it's 100% accurate. And when you study and you use logic and reasoning, you will come to discover that this is 100% accurate. Inviting friends, neutral beings, difficult beings, and then the rest of sentient beings, those ones that you actually know about You do first, as Acharya Kamalashila says. In the stages of meditation, we start with those beings we actually know and then fill the rest of them in. Hell, hungry ghost, animal, human, demigods, and gods. Now we have every kind of being that exists. We have sentient beings here, and we have Buddhas. The Buddhas are our role models. The Buddhas are looking into ours and all sentient beings' eyes with immense loving kindness and can say, I love you, to every single being in the universe. They're looking into all, imagine they're looking into your eyes. They're looking into all the beings' eyes you've brought here. Imagine that person that you feel is so distasteful. Imagine that just suddenly something comes over them by looking into the eyes of a Buddha's, looking into the eyes of a being who cares about all of us more than a mother would for her only child. And imagine that there's a slight transformation that's taking place. And if your energy changes in relation to them, things are changing. They're changing. Dynamics are changing. There's so much interdependence among all sentient beings at such subtle levels. The more we can relate in good ways to other sentient beings, it helps them. I promise. And the more that we can say, if you give just a little bit of water to a worm that may be dried out and say, I'm doing this for the sake of all sentient beings. Again, Jeffrey Hopkins said in a class we were listening to, don't think, oh, little old me can't help all sentient beings. If you think you're doing something for the sake of all of them, if I help this sentient being not be frightened, this will cause me to become a Buddha. I'm doing this to become a Buddha. What do all sentient beings need? They need Buddhas. They need truth sayers and loving beings, kind, compassionate beings. That's what we all need. And when we do things that are positive and say, I'm doing this in order to become a Buddha, we're doing that. What that means inside of it when we study enough, it means that I'm working for everyone with everything that I do. That's what a bodhisattva does. So the more we can fake it, we'll eventually make it, and this contrived state will become uncontrived. So now imagine the space in front of us transforms into to Rajagriha, Vulture Peak Mountain. And this is where this, when we look at the turnings of the wheel of Dharma, first turning of the wheel of Dharma, Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths. Target audience were those holding the view of the Vaibhashika school and Sautrantika school. And again, it was at Sarnath, Varanasi. So the first turning of the wheel of Dharma. Turning of the wheel is a way to say teaching. Gave a teaching on the Dharma. Turned the wheel, gave the teaching. So it's just a way to say that. So the first set kind of turning we would call the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. The second turning of the wheel of Dharma was done at Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain. And that was a teaching on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, the 100,000 verse, the 80,000 verse, 25, 20, 8,000, Heart Sutra, syllable bunch of length versions of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra were taught to the aptitudes of the students listening, long story, but that's the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. And then at the third turning of the wheel of Dharma happened in Vaishali in India. And this turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha kind of gave commentary, interpretation of his own teachings that seemed to have some confusing contradictions. Because as we all know, the Buddha taught to scope. The Buddha taught lots and lots of people. And because of his omniscience, as a sign of omniscience, not as a sign of confusion, as a sign of omniscience, we see the Buddha saying different things to different people. And then folks would say, well, the Buddha didn't know what he was talking about. No, this is a sign the Buddha was omniscient because we all have different imprints and all need to hear different things. So when we look at the final view, the first and the second turning of the wheel of Dharma need to be interpreted. They need to have this second turning of the wheel be added to it because this is the definitive teaching. And the definitive teaching, the main thing the Buddha came to say is that things do not intrinsically exist. They exist but they don't exist intrinsically. Existence and intrinsic existence are not equivalents. Intrinsic existence is a mode of existence that we normally appears to us and we apprehend that is incorrect. It's a way of existence, it's a mode of existence that appears to us that's wrong, where what appears is that things have some sort of way to set themselves up from their own side that don't require a designating mind, that don't require that aren't just mere imputation. The mode of existence is subjective in reality, yet I'm looking at that chair over there right now, and the mode of existence looks objective. Looks like that chair is setting itself up right from its own side. I'm here, it's over there. It's a thing that exists with defining characteristics over there. And I don't feel that my mind has anything to do with what is over there. And what we come to find out is my mind is projecting what is over there and believing that this projection fits right inside the parts in terms of the name that I'm projecting at it. I believe from my side that somehow when I say chair, this thing that comes up in my chair, when I say chair, I learned about chairs, and I learned chairs are things you sit on. So when this thing comes up in my mind that says chair, I think, oh, that thing over there that exists from its own side is one of those. I should put a sticker on it. And I think that's all that's happening. But the Buddha came to say that that's not what's happening. Because when we move closer to the object that we think exists from its own side, not being supported or held up by my mind in any way, we can't find it from the side of the object. When we move closer to that chair and try to see if we can find this thing that holds itself up from its own side, separate from mere imputation, and we look inside its parts, is it over there? Is it over? We start. Is that the chair? Is that the chair? Is that the chair? Is it the east of the chair, the west of the chair, the north of the chair, the south of the chair? Is that the chair? Is that spindle the chair? Do we have a chair? If I remove that spindle, is that still a chair? How many of those things do I have to remove for there not to be a chair? Is there some chairness over there? When we start to move in towards the object, the actual parts over there, we move closer and try to find this designated object, this imputed, this thing we're saying is chair, I'm putting a label on over there. It becomes very difficult to find this thing I feel is holding itself up over there. And then if I try to find, well, then if it's not in the object, it's absurd to think it may be somewhere else, but let me be absurd. Think, oh, is there a chair I'm sitting on that's somewhere that's separate from the parts over there? That's absurd. So then when we come out of this analysis, we have to figure out, like, okay, but chairs exist. Like, so Buddha never would come to say like something so asinine that chairs don't exist. And folks that say things like the I doesn't exist are just misinterpreting what Buddha said. No, the Buddha came to tell us something real weird and subtle. The Buddha came to say that somehow, and this is what we have to study for years and years and years, we have images coming up in our mind that we're labeling, that we think are the actual things that we're labeling. Weird, right? And then we believe that this thing, when we say chair, this label is somewhere in those parts and that it just sits in. It's like that chair objectively exists from its own side, right in the object, existing by way of its own character. It's established by its own defining characteristic, its own personal defining characteristics. But then when we say then when we start to say, is that a good chair or a bad chair? And then it starts to get real, even more murky. And the reason it becomes so murky is because we're not right in the first place that the chair exists from its own side. We're not right about that. So anyway, the Buddha came to tell us that things exist. They don't exist the way that they think we do. And it's going to take a lot of years of study to know what that means. But we must come to a concrete understanding that things exist. They just don't exist intrinsically, truly, inherently, absolutely, ultimately. They don't have a mode of existence like that. Okay. And then hidden within this, so this is the Heart Sutra. Second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha said that, this mode of existence that you're wrong about, well, every phenomena in the universe you cling to as having this mode of existence that you're wrong about. And everything in the universe exists that you think exists. It exists. It just doesn't exist the way that you think it does. And quantum physics would say the same thing. I don't think the Buddha, is so wild. When we study quantum physics, study neuroscience, neuroscience talks about generic images, basically, about images coming up in our mind that are references for us to label. Like when we see a clock, it's just some clock, generic clock that's coming up. They're like, oh, it's a clock. Yeah. Even neuroscience, quantum physics, you put all these things together. Everyone's saying we're having experiences that don't tally with reality. The Buddha just explained it really clearly, exactly what is going on and not going on. And this is for us to discover. And then hidden within this Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge that we read, that's part of the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, is hidden within it is the path that a bodhisattva goes through to realize emptiness conceptually, then directly, and indirectly, more and more and more and more, to do the washing of the mind that's necessary to wash out the afflictive obstructions, and then the stinky residue they leave behind, called the obstructions to omniscience, that keep us from being the most reliable guides, happiest guides in the universe. Okay, let's read the Heart Sutra. Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Hold on, let me have a little sipperooski here. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha, monks and a great gathering of the Sangha Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses a Dharma called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature, empty of intrinsic existence, empty of existence right within the object of the five aggregates, empty of intrinsic existence, the form aggregate, the feeling aggregate, the discrimination aggregate, the compositional factor aggregate, the consciousness aggregate. All of these five aggregates that, when combined together, make up you and me, these aggregates, that my mind and my body makes up me. All of these things, when we look at them individually, lack intrinsic existence. So when we look at my body, that's phenomena. Phenomena are empty of intrinsic existence. When I look at this I, that's person. The person is empty of intrinsic existence. This person, I, is merely imputed in dependence on a collection of among the 4 or 5 aggregates that serve as a basis of imputation. These 5 aggregates over here, by hands and noses and minds and discriminations and feelings, all this stuff going on, with my mind in this body, this is the basis of designation, the basis of imputation for this thing that I call Jeff, that I think somehow is like driving around a mind and a body or something. I have all these unclear ideas around it. But when we look at it, the very important thing to take away from tonight is that seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature, empty of intrinsic existence, empty of inherent existence, empty of existing right within the object, empty of establishment by way of its own character. And the I is merely imputed in dependence upon these, this mind and this body. But if we say, am I my body? No. Am I my mind? No. If I was my mind, I wouldn't need being a male is not determined by a mind. when you look at society, when a doctor writes down boy, girl, I don't mean like the new way of thinking. I mean like when the doctor, boy, girl, when that happens, that isn't determined by a mind. So my kind of way of thinking, Jeff, I, isn't just mine because it's in dependence upon all of this other stuff that's making me think that this is who I am. And then when I look at Jeff, well, Jeff has this house he lives in. It's in dependence upon my identity, depends upon all of this other stuff that merely comes together. And then I put this label on as Jeff, and then I feel like this thing is sitting there as something that intrinsically exists when it's merely imputed in dependence upon a collection. And that's what dependent origination means. All phenomena are empty of nature. Look at the wording here, are empty of nature because they dependently originate. I dependently originate. I dependently originate in terms of I needed a sperm and an egg. You know, I need food. I need this stuff, causes and conditions, you know, all these different things. And we could look at the future, Jeff. We could see generations working their way up to me, you know, making kids and making kids and making kids because of attachment, working their way up to future Jeff, you know, and me sitting here. All of these things that came together to label this guy here, that I feel like that label is just me. Me. That's me. But think about it. I just said all that's happening is here. There's some parts, there's some physical and mental things that are all coming together. And then there's this name on it. And like somehow or another, I've decided, because this is the way it appears to me and I experience it, that there's something concrete there. But I just said that it's all this stuff happening. That's not concrete at all. Yeah. Then through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice profound Prajaparamita? Addressed in this way, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice a profound Prajaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature, form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception or discrimination, formation or compositional factors in consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound. There's no intrinsically existent purity. There's no intrinsically existent impurity. Impure things arise from impure causes. So there's no intrinsically existent impure things because causes and conditions give rise to impure things. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing standing itself up, holding itself up from its own side. It's like saying that someone whose legs don't work and then they use crutches to get around. It's like saying that person doesn't rely on anything to walk around but themselves, when clearly they need crutches to walk around. This is Gonpo Rinpoche. I heard him say it. If someone's walking around on crutches, or if they can't get up on their own, and then they have one person on one arm and one person on another arm, and then they lift them up. This person didn't get up on their own. None of these objects that we see get up on their own. None of these people get up on their own. None of these impure emotions just get up on their own. They're all cause. They all have causes that are concordant. They don't just get up on their own. Yet we feel everything just gets up on our own. We feel we're a victim of something getting up on our own, or we just got happiness thrust on us because something got up on its own. But nothing gets up on its own because everything dependently originates. So therefore, nothing is intrinsically existent. Dependently originates in dependence upon causes, results depending on causes, wholes depending on parts, and dependence upon mere imputation at its subtlest level. You'll never find a Jeff without mere imputation and dependence upon a collection of among the five aggregates that serve as a basis of designation. But that Jeff exists because he's talking to you right now and works very well, thank you very much, as a human, functioning, working, moving, talking, eating, sleeping. That functioning Jeff functions just great and exists. It just doesn't function the way that I think that it does, because I feel there's some sort of concreteness here. Yeah. So there's none of this stuff we think. And the eye, it's not intrinsically existent, or the ear, or the nose, or the tongue, or the body, or the mind, or the appearances, anything that's appearances or sounds, things we're hearing. We feel like they're so intrinsically existent. We feel like it isn't just a sense power and a sense consciousness and an eye conscious, ear consciousness, and some sort of immediately presenting condition, and some sort of ding off of a something that's making an echo, that there's a sound wave that then's hitting this and then allowing us to hear it. We just think there's something sitting out there going ding, or the song being played out there that's so amazing art. Oh, that person's so intrinsically genius to be able to have put those notes together. They're intrinsically the most incredible musician that ever exists, the most incredible singer, just holding itself up from its own side. Yeah, no sound, no smell, no taste. Oh, that tastes so good. So intrinsically delicious until you eat 1,000,000 of them and you throw up. Intrinsically good until it's not. Intrinsically smells good until you're so sick of that smell you can't take it anymore. Oh, it's so nice and soft. If I could just feel something rough for a change. Yeah. No dharmas, no I dhatu, up to no bind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind conscious doctrine, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of prajnaparamita. Since there's no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. The bodhisattvas have no intrinsic attainment. They abide by means of recognizing that things are merely imputed. And because they recognize that things are merely imputed in dependence upon a collection that serves as a basis of designation, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana in dependence upon the perfection of wisdom that recognizes that things do not intrinsically exist. And nirvana is actually ultimate truth because it's a state that tallies with reality. All the Buddhas of the 3 times, by means of prajnaparamita, by realizing emptiness, by realizing the lack of true existence of all phenomena, fully awakened to unsurpassable true complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of prajnaparamita, the path of accumulation, where we first, by then, have to have realized emptiness conceptually in order to move forward. The mantra of great insight, the path of preparation, where we have a conceptual realization of emptiness again that is a union of calm abiding and special insight. It's a very, very high realization of emptiness right before we see it directly. The unsurpassed mantra, the path of seeing, where we see emptiness directly. The unequaled mantra, the path of meditation, where we see emptiness directly again and again and again, to the point where we have the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Calms all suffering, the path of no more learning. There is so much hidden in this sutra, and I encourage you all to study it. The Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way. Everything that I just said to you about the 5 paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning are all hidden in this. Teata om gate gate, paragate, parasangati bodhisattva. The Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Gadeshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family. Thus it is, O son of noble family. Thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world, its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. When someone's in samadhi and single-pointed concentration, that has like the highest concentration, an atomic bomb can go off and they won't hear it. But the Buddha is able to cognize, this ultimate truth, these single-pointedly realizing, while knowing, oh, okay, it looks like Venerable Shariputra and Lord Chenrezig blessing is done happening. Now let me just arise from that samadhi. That's not the way that it normally would work. That's very, very special when it speaks of it in this way, that there's an arisal from this samadhi, and then the Buddha just starts talking and saying, good, good, I agree, O son of noble family. Thus it is, O son of noble family. One should practice profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. So everything that, the Buddha made this sutra happen anyway, but just qualifying it by saying, yes, nothing intrinsically exists. And all the Buddhas would agree and rejoice in the fact that you're talking about the fact that things don't intrinsically exist, because that's the only way they became Buddhas, by realizing things don't intrinsically exist. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, noble Avatgeshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasapa, that whole assembly in the world, its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Agha samara jasandara samaraya he te ata on gate paragate parasangate buddhizo baba gaje sanji gaye deme doji she lava doji meba doji shewa doji jagi baje me de beje danji she den goye zo ha get in don jaje ju she wa dan me don ne be jan dan de wa dan don ba don jin bon zo zo joji daji de jan den da de le sho. We'll make an outer mandala offering of a perfect universe as a request for the teaching. And remember, from the teacher all the way back, the lineage all the way to Buddha Shakyamuni, and we're making this mandala offering because all of these teachings are possible because of all the holy beings in the merit field that we just imagined: extensive deeds lineage, profound view lineage, lineage of blessings, Nima Kaju, Sakya, Galupa, Bhutan lineage, Janan, all of these holy beings of the Theravada tradition, the Dharmagupta tradition, the Mula Sarvastivadi tradition, all of these holy beings. Because of them, we're so fortunate. Imagine we're making this mandala offering to all of them. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, and the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we're ready. A shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. So really think about this. It says Holy Lamas high. Wrap the sky. There's holy lamas on every single atom with your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, looking into our eyes with immense loving kindness, and they have the wisdom to know exactly what we need. It's right here, what I'm saying to do. Looking into your eyes, wisdom, and they know what you need and love you so much. Let them pour upon the earth of your disciples, all of us. We've brought all sentient beings here. As we're ready, we're all ready. We all want to be happy. We all want to be free from suffering. We're ready for that. A shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. So much meaning in everything we say. I pray you're extracting it. I take refuge until I am enlightened. I won't need to take refuge when I'm enlightened. I won't need to go for refuge, but I will agree with going for refuge, and that will make me a Buddhist. Anyone who's listening, that's a big debate. I take refuge until I'm enlightened, and the Buddha is the Dharma. I'm going to change that. I go for refuge. It's better. I go for it's dro. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. And the Buddha is the Dharma and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by listening to the teachings, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings, goers. But they are all sentient beings, so it's fine. But you look in there, Sanjay Chidan, find Semchen in there. You won't. But you see Drolam, those are goers. Where are they going? They're going to hell. They're going to hungry ghosts. They're going to animal. They're going to humans. Sometimes they're going to demigods, and sometimes they're going to the gods realm. And the problem with using sentient beings here is that, goers, hearers and solitary realizers in nirvana, they're not goers. They're not going around cyclic existence anymore. They're in nirvana, but they are sentient beings because they're not Buddhas. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings. So I think I may just start translating it as that, because I think it's better. Why not always refine it? And it always says sentient beings, but then, when you look at the Bodhisattva going for refuge, they're doing it for the sake, anyway, it's fine. Yeah, let's just read the source of all my good before I, drive us around too much in a car that's not going anywhere. Let's go somewhere. All right. So the source of all my good, again, we know that Pabonko Rinpoche Dorje Chang separates this into 4 categories. First category is how to find a Lama and what to do, and so forth in the proper way related to a teacher, a male or a female. It says in the commentary, whatever that teacher is, how you relate to them. And then the next part is, what you do once you find a teacher, and that is engage in the practice of the teachings for beings of small and medium and great capacity. And then there's a third category, which is a category that is related to this life and not wanting to have any obstacles to meeting with the teachings and making sure you don't have any obstacles and your teacher's having obstacles, so you keep getting teachings. And then the fourth category is related to all your lives to make sure you always meet with perfect teachers and never stop going through all of the pathways. So these are the 4 categories according to Pabonko Rinpoche. And let's just read it, and then we'll get into this part that we were going to get into tonight about the extraordinary attitude. The source of all my good. Source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him or her in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow them with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things that I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind as my certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of liberation. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality, the Pradamoksha vows, the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddhist teachings. I have slipped. So this is a stanza we've been looking at for like a year. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on the task of freeing, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Aspirational bodhicitta that you get by practicing the 2 methods called. I hear everyone. It's echoing so loudly. I hear 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment with the precept of equanimity. Oh my gosh, it's so loud. And then I heard equalizing and exchanging self with others. Wow. And then someone said, you can combine the practice and make it really, really powerful. Wow. Yeah. That's how you get aspiring bodhicitta. Yeah, it's a caused thing. It's a result. And it's a main mind when you get it. And if you get to the medium level, it won't ever go away. The path of accumulation. Path of accumulation, you get there as a Mahayanas, that is bodhicitta. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself isn't enough. I just did all that and that's not enough. For if I'm not well trained in the 3 moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant me that I may quickly gain a path where quietude and insight join together, or calm abiding and special insight join together. One which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Again, we talk about the union of calm abiding and special insight on the path of preparation that has as object of observation emptiness, that analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. What's the perfect meaning? Things are empty of intrinsic existence. What's the object of observation of the calm abiding and special insight? The actual nature of reality, the emptiness of intrinsic existence. The objective existence of the object is the lack of objective existence. That's how the object abides. The mode of existence of the object is emptiness of intrinsic existence, is subjective existence. And so, yeah, grant that these paths that I've practiced well in the past shared become a vessel that grant that once I've practiced the paths shared. What are the paths shared? The resounding, I hear it. The teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity. They're called in common because they're shared. The teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity. They're called in common because they're shared. Small is shared with medium. Medium and small are shared with great. The great scope has perfection vehicle and resultant vehicle. There's a shared path is the perfection vehicle that we must learn. We don't just skip to Tantra. So silly, all this skip to Tantra talk. It's like people who even know better saying it. It's starting to really kind of like, starting to almost like what are you doing this for? Why are you talking like this? You know better. Yeah. It's the holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and the good. What does good mean? Well, it means that you've really got pure ethics and you have bodhicitta, because those are the ones who abandon evil, engage in perfect virtuous activities. That's who's good. Who's engaging in perfect virtuous activities? Bodhisattvas. Yeah, we're learning about bodhicitta so we could actually someday practice Tantra. Bodhisattvas practice Tantra. Degenerate beings don't. They pretend to practice Tantra, and then they go to hell shaped like a deity. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then always to keep them, even if it costs my life. Bless me next to realize as well as I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times highest that there is. Bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road, all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. That's all of y'all. May you all live long and fruitful lives. You're my companions in this quest, my Dharma friends. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now and stop and end forever. Like I could walk out of the room and fall and hit my head and die, like that kind of obstacle that could stop me now. Or I could find out like I have a terminal illness that could stop me. May that obstacle not be there, because that stops me from being able to practice as long as I can. And I need a long time to practice. And I want continuity. And I want to make sure when I die, I know that I've created continuity so that in all my lives I will never live apart from my perfect lamas, bask in the glory of the Dharma, fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. The one who holds the diamond is just translated here as that's Dorje Chang, Vajradhara. Buddha, Vajradhara is who? Buddha when he takes on the tantric form. It's just Buddha Shakyamuni in tantric form. He takes on the form of Vajradhara. So it's saying, may I become Vajradhara, because this is a very tantric text, integrated path. And this is kind of the cue that the Panchen Lamas took and made these like texts that were so integrated in terms of sutra and tantra together. You're meditating on, the bodhicitta and doing it in a way where you're seeing your lama as inseparable from the deity. And the deity actually enters your lama, the actual deity, not imagining it, enters your lama, becomes one taste with your lama, and eventually you do a self-generation where you become with one taste, your mind with your lama who's one taste with the deity. Wow. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. But none of that actually works unless you become a vessel that is worthy and practice the path shared. And that's what we're working so hard at doing. Aspiring bodhicitta. So we've been building up. It's like a musical piece that started out slow. Dun, dun, dun. It's building up. And good musical pieces do that, right? So we started out making our minds be able to have this buildup that we're hopefully getting to. We're starting to this place of equanimity, which is the pre-step for the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. Again, passed down from Lord Maitreya to Arya Sangha, Acharya Basubandhu, Acharya Dignaga, Acharya Dharmakirti, Acharya Gunaprabha, Acharya Shakyaprabha, Arya Vimuktasena, Acharya Haryabhadra. We see this lineage of the extensive deeds. Acharya in the Master Acharya, Salimpa, Lama Salimpa, Lord Atisha. These are our spiritual family. This is who's passed this to us and said, here you go. You can be as happy as us. We figured out how to be happy here. So we get this idea of this pre-step of equanimity in the 7-point cause and effect, where we start to loosen our mind and say, hey, I have an open mind. I'd be equally willing to work with beings, because you know what? In my past life, the ones I love were my enemies, maybe. And in my past life, my enemies were actually ones that I loved. And strangers I may have been closer to than anyone I'm even closer to in this life. People I think are strangers in this life. Yeah, it's so much uncertainty And that if I'm willing to want, like, the beings that I'm around that I like care about now because of my limited understanding of the way things really are, then it only makes sense for me to like be open-minded about others. So we get through this precept where we look at neutrals, friends, and enemies, and we become like, make this palette that's smooth in our mind that we can work with. So we're building it up. We're cleaning we're walking around, cleaning the room, cleaning our mind, making it more so that we could actually start to build something on it. And we're building it, and our mind is already elevating as we're getting this equanimity, because we're seeing less reason to be like, you are my enemy, you are my friend. We're seeing a loosening of that knot, that chain that's binding us, that chain of the self-cherishing attitude that's binding us. It starts loosening a little when we start this like mad, heavy bifurcation, like in the mirror exercise, that we see what we're doing and it starts to slow down a little bit. When we see our reactions to these beings, it starts to slow down enough that we could say, okay, and start to look at our mother in this life, and then say that they were our mother in previous lives, and then move it out to people we care about, you know, and other people we care about and friends with, and then move it out to strangers, and then the difficult people. And we do this, and we've been building it up, and we've said, oh, now we've concluded that every being in the universe is my mother, was my mother, you know, was the mother, is the mother of who were they the mother of? It was me. What, not Jeff, but it was just the me that was designated in dependence upon the collection of the aggregates that served as the basis of designation at that time. I may have been called, my name was maybe Mary, you know. Yeah, or Kala, the dog, whatever. But at that time, there was a being kind to me. And everyone in every single realm of the universe has played that role in my life. So you come to this conclusion through meditation, through relying upon Acharya Dharma Kirti's Pramanavartika Karika to establish past lives, with the reasoning of the previous moment of consciousness, the previous moment of the sense powers, the previous moment of the breath, using this reasoning to establish previous lives, and then establish that in those lives you were an I, and you had moms and dads, and you were born from eggs and heats and moistures, and you had all these different ways of being born, sometimes spontaneously born without a mother. Other places you don't have moms, sometimes formless realm and stuff. But anyway, in previous lives, at some point in time or another, every being in the universe took care of you when you were totally vulnerable. So that's what a mom does. You know, that's what the label mom, when we look at, well, what are moms supposed to do? Maybe that yours didn't do it exactly the way you thought that they should have. But if you're here with me, they cared enough to get you out of the womb and bring you into the position to be able to have all of your needs fulfilled and all sentient beings fulfilled. So you recognize that every being in the universe took care of you. Every being in the universe was in that role of taking care of you when you're vulnerable, called mother. And then you move on to this, I kind of jumped the gun a bit, but then you move on to this remembering of the kindness. Those friends, those neutrals, those enemies, they were all completely kind to you while they were your mother, and you established that they were your mother. It's building up. Wow, I'm having a different relationship with all sentient beings. It's changing. I'm becoming closer to them. And you see, having the mind intent on working for others' welfare is something that's building up. We get there from equanimity, then all beings are our mother, remembering their kindness, and then say, I want to repay their kindness. Yeah, may I repay their kindness? And now we've gotten an idea about, may I repay the kindness of every being in the universe. Da-na, it's building up. Your mind is becoming so much bigger than when it started. This person's a jerk. I hate that person. I hope they get theirs. Now your mind is so different. It's saying, wow, I would like to repay. May I repay the kindness of all of these beings. I want to repay your kindness. I hate you. That does not fit in the same house. Bias doesn't fit in that house. I want to repay your kindness. The next step is love through the force of attraction. All this work that we've done has now made it like we're a magnet, and every single sentient being in the universe is like filings. just drawn to us. We're drawn to them, or vice versa. They're magnets and we're metal. However you want to think of it, whatever works in your mind, be creative. We're just drawn to them because of what we've concluded about them being our mother, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, or whatever being we need to think of. It doesn't have to be our mother. It can be our brother, sister. It can be whoever took care of us when we were vulnerable, our father, whoever that is. Everyone has done that for us. And we come to this conclusion that who do we love? We love everyone. What does love mean? I want you to have happiness. I want you to have the causes of happiness. May you have happiness, the causes of happiness. May you be free. I will be a cause for you to have happiness and the causes of happiness. And we begin to relate to every being in the universe like that, right when we see them, if we're doing this right. May I somehow cause you to have happiness and the causes of happiness. You see somebody who you don't like, you practice this, even fake it in your mind. Yeah. Fake it in your mind. May I be a cause for your happiness and the causes of happiness. Imagine if this was really happening to your mind. You have this attraction where you want them to have happiness. You're so drawn to them, and not in an attachment way, drawn in a way where you cherish them more than yourself. It's starting to happen. It's starting to actually happen. And now you say, these beings I'm so attracted to, and I want them to have happiness, that are bereft of happiness, they also suffer so badly. How nice it'd be if they didn't suffer. May they not suffer. I will be a cause to make them not suffer. I will be a cause for this. So we've gotten to this point where these beings, we're so concretely convinced that we want them to have happiness. We want them to be free from suffering. We want to be a cause for that actual thing to happen. And it's this kind of love and compassion that's different than the immeasurable love and compassion that happens in the individual liberation Hinayana vehicle. This love and compassion that we're talking about says in it, I want to be a cause for that, which sets us up for the next step that we're talking about. And that is the extraordinary attitude of altruism. It's translated as so many things. Extraordinary attitude, a different kind of attitude, the highest, this high, kind of thinking that is not normal. And this is, I will myself, before I'm saying I want to be a cause, may I be a cause, I'm going to be a cause. Now I'm saying I will myself. I'm not, before it's like I'll be a cause. There's a lot of causes for things to make something happen. We know that. Think about innumerable causes. I'm saying, now, I'm going to be the one who causes all sentient beings to be free from suffering and all sentient beings to have an immense amount of happiness. This is a conclusion that you come to. I am going to do this myself. I will do this myself. Imagine what this concerto sounds like now. I will do this myself for everyone. And then the analysis starts. What can I do? What will I do? Let's read a little bit from Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. And you will not be fully satisfied with this step until you look all around. And if you haven't really meditated on the first 5 steps, this step, like the slight difference, isn't going to make as much sense. But it's literally like pounding your fist on the table and saying, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this. Yeah. It's literally like just taking it on. At the conclusion of meditating on love and compassion, think, alas, these dear living beings for whom I feel affection are deprived of happiness and tormented by suffering. How can I provide them happiness and free them from suffering? So now I'm saying, I'm going to do it. Okay, so how am I going to do it? What's the way that I'm going to do it? Okay, I'm going to do it. What's the way? How will I do it? Thinking in this way, train your mind in at least this thought in order to take on the responsibility to liberate beings. Okay, I'm going to do it. What do I need to do for them? Even though this thought was described in the context of the practice of repaying your mother's kindness, here it indicates that it is insufficient to have the compassion and love which merely think, how nice it would be if they had happiness and were free from suffering. For the thought that assumes responsibility shows that you must develop the compassion and love which have the power to induce the resolve, I will provide happiness and benefit to all living beings. It is very effective if you practice this continuously, being mindful of it in all of your physical activities during the period of post-meditation and so on, not just during the meditation session. We talked about go to the supermarket. Don't say it out loud. Think there's a sentient being. Sentient beings want happiness, just like me. I'm a sentient being. They're a sentient being. They want happiness. They want to be free from suffering. I'm going to, and then kind of go through these thoughts. They've been my mother. They were so kind. I would love them to have happiness, the cause of happiness. I'm going to take it upon myself, the task of freeing them. Yeah, I must become a Buddha to do so. Yeah, this is the conclusion you're going to come to, which will be the 7th step of bodhicitta. So you're walking around doing this. I'm going to free them. I want to do this. You're using every opportunity you can that a sentient being comes within your gaze to try to use this practice. The Stages of Meditation by Kamalashila says, cultivate compassion towards all beings at all times, whether you are in meditative concentration or are in the course of any other activity. Bird flies by. That sentient being was my mother. Hello, mother, as Pabunka Rinpoche would say. Here, compassion is just one example. You must do the same when sustaining any meditation. So this is just like what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying is, like what the Buddha told us, like the love meditation, the equanimity meditation. You shouldn't just like leave that on your cushion. This is for us to use in our life. And then this is such a great quote from the great master, Chandragroman, Acharya Chandragroman. Since beginningless time, the tree of the mind has been moistened with the bitter juice of the afflictions, and you are unable to sweeten its taste. How could just a drop of water of good qualities affect it? Thus, he says, for example, that you cannot sweeten the very bitter large trunk of the tikta tree by pouring just one drop of sugarcane juice onto it. Similarly, the mind stream, which has been infused since beginningless time with the bitter afflictions, will not change at all from just a short cultivation of the good qualities of love, compassion, and so forth. Therefore, you must sustain your meditation continuously. And it's pretty clear. Not like ambiguous. What do we need to do? I'm just not sure. I'm a Buddhist and there's just no instructions out there. It's just so ambiguous. No, so clear, crystal clear what to do first, what to do second, how to train your mind, how to get shamatha, how to do it, how to get renunciation, how to get shamatha, how to get bodhicitta, how to see emptiness. Super clear. And you will agree if you study enough. And maybe you have and do, and I hope so. Yeah. Concluding mandala offering is hey, thank you so much for this teaching, to the teacher and all the way back to the lineage, to Buddha. This is our family. Our spiritual family is our lineage of back to Buddha. And then we say Buddha Shakyamuni, but before Buddha Shakyamuni was Buddha Kashyapa. Buddha Shakyamuni relied upon, and other Buddhas before that. Okay. Fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, I apologize. I don't remember making them, but if I did, I am not a Buddha. I am not a Mahascholar. So if I made a mistake in speaking, I apologize, and may it be purified by the Vajrasattva mantra, and imagine that your body, speech, and mind are purified as well with white Oms, red Ahs, and blue Oms just coming out of the sky from Vajrasattva and blessing us. Om benzo sata samaya manubalaya benzo sata zeno bajita dita meva vazu dogaya meva vazu bogaya meva anurada meva vazu avazini meva raja sava kama suchi megitam shiyam guru om ha bhagavan sava tata gata benzo mami moga benzo baba ma samaya sava om ve. May we always be protected by Paul the Lama Jorama 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 Jujikala Raja Maramo Aja Daja Dunjo. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the Hero Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Jambel bao jeda jemba dong gong du zombo de an de jen de da gong ji jesu da lo je. Kewa de da tanche ra tu ngo du zum je be je wa dang je ji ngo wa gang lang do du ngo ba de shin ge wei za wa de gong yang zang bo ju je ra du ngo wa ji. Shang ju zen jo ren bo je ma ye ba nang je jo ji je ba nyang ba me ba yang gong ne gong du be wa jo. Kewa di nyo do da lama zanje do jo ne do a shin jama lu ba de za la go par jo. A long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the heavenly realm of Tibet, surrounded by a chain of snow mountains. You are the source of all help and happiness for beings, all powerful advocate Desvara Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara's end. Ari Rave Vorve Shinyan Vendan Deva Malu Zhongwei Nenre Wang Tenzin Yazo Yi Bezide Baduren Yori. And a supplication to Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, my root Lama. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend, who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music purified by Om, 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 Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you. Place the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Thus, like a teacher who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings of three capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them as by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We're not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. Sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world. Take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. We all depend upon each other. We think about interdependence and anything that we can do to try to work for the welfare of all sentient beings. Any little tiny thing that we do really directly has an impact on all sentient beings in a very subtle way, indirectly and directly in a very, very subtle way. So thank you. Let's do the best we can to make this world the most wonderful place that it can be. And that means that it could be a place where no one ever thought of harming one another because they realized what His Holiness the Dalai Lama comes to tell us we should realize. Thank you. See you.